Welcome to the April general meeting of the Oak Grove Community Council. It's good to see everybody here in the room and all the people online as well. So I'm glad to have you with us. I would like to start by asking if there's anybody who's never been to Oak Grove Community Council from the community before. I don't see any new, I think we know everybody. Okay, well, let's do some introductions. Just quickly, the board, I'm Valerie Chapman, I'm the chair of the Oak Grove Community Council.
Mark Elliott, vice chair, and I live off of Concord Road.
Joyce Johnson, secretary, and I live at Putnam High School.
Wayne?
Oh, I'm Wayne Potter, I'm a board member at large.
Okay. And
Ben Cheney, board member at large up on Silbury.
And Daniel?
I'm Daniel Dyer Greenside, treasurer, and I live off of Park Avenue up by the Mac station.
All right. Let's introduce other people that are here. Dan, do you want to start?
I'm Brian, I'm Evergreen, close to the station, last station.
I am Susan Keel, I live on Oak Shore Lane.
I'm Vanessa Slagle, I live off Hill Road on Wild Roads.
I'm Bob Bohannon, I'm back on Lori next to Roseville.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Thea Selly. I'm the NCPRD District Director.
Hello, everybody. My name is Lauren Carey. I'm the Natural Resources Coordinator for NCPRD.
I'm Anita, I live on Fair Oaks Avenue.
We also have Deputy Wildhopper in the room. I think we'll introduce you more fully. Sure, let's get the people that are here online. Thelma. Did she disappear?
He did disappear.
Okay. Oh, she wasn't. Dave.
Tell them everything's here.
Dave. Okay, maybe he's Cam. Do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Anne Moran. I live at Roseville.
Welcome. Okay, Jean. Eugene? All right.
Okay, I'm Gene Fifield. I live near Courtney and River Road.
All right, welcome. Rich.
Yeah, Rich Napon. I live on McCartney Lane, which is 3 blocks south of the Fred Meyers.
Okay. So we have Sue.
Sue Conahan, and I live at Parkview Circle and River Road.
Welcome. Jane.
Jane Civiletti, Fair Oaks Ave.
Tom and Jolene.
Tom and Jolene Hammond, and we live on Viewcrest.
Okay. And Linda.
I'm Linda Seals, and I live on Woodland Way, south of Oak Grove Boulevard.
Okay, let me try Dave Doback one more time. Dave, are you there?
Dave Doback, I live at Rose Villa.
All right. And Erin.
Hello everyone. Erin Riom. I'm the Planning and Development Director with NCPRD.
Welcome. So I think we got everybody. So good. Let's begin with some officer reports. So Daniel, would you like to give us a treasurer report?
Yes, I would. At last meeting, we had cash donations totaling $10, which was our only transaction during that period. That leaves us with a current balance of $19.04 and 51 cents. And speaking of donations, I believe somewhere in the room you should have the little donation box should you wish to contribute in person for those of you who are there. And for those of you who are not, you can always go to oakgrovecpo.org. Thanks.
All right. And is there a secretarial report other than, did you ask for minutes, or did you have any attendance things that needed to be announced?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, we sent them the minutes out. Were there any corrections or additions to the minutes as they were sent out? If not, then they'll stand approved as they were put out. So Thank you. Well, that was easy. Okay, Deputy John Wildhaber from the Sheriff's Department is here to share several different things with us. So I'll let you introduce yourself and.
So my name is John Wildhammer. I'm deputy with the Sheriff's Office. I've been with the Sheriff's Office since approximately 2009. I'm assigned to communications and I'm one of the public information officers. You wait for the slideshow.
Tends to hide us.
Mhm.
One moment.
There you go.
Yeah.
So if anybody has a cell phone with them and they want to scan the QR code, it'll take you to a link so you can download our app. So that's the first thing I'm going to talk about this evening is our new Sheriff's Office app and redesigned website. I'll give people just a couple more seconds and then I'll have you go to the next slide. Oops, we went too far. It just goes, there we go. There we go. So one of the things that we wanted to do was we wanted to reduce barriers to service. One of the complaints that we had about the website that we had before was it was hard to find things. So what we've done is we've launched a new website. It is no longer hosted on the county's website. It's hosted at clatcosheriff.us. And the app is a mirror image of that website. You can see that there's hot buttons on the bottom, just like there's hot buttons on your screen, so you can touch to the services that people access the most. And next slide. So what really kicked off the app was that out of the wildfires, we noticed the communication gap. One of the things that will happen is emergency management will send out what's called an Everbridge alert. People know that as public alerts. You sign up for that. Part of that system notification is it goes to your cell phone and it sets off this awful alarm on your cell phone. And depending on the age of your cell phone, you get very limited information. The other problem is depending on the age of your cell phone, what they do is they take a map and they draw a circle and they say, hey, from this point, we want to notify everybody within, let's say, a mile. Depending on your age of cell phone, people 10 miles away can be alerted about that event. So they're getting limited information. They don't know if that pertains to them or not. In comes the app. And one of the features of the app is now push notifications. So when you sign up for the app, I recommend that you sign up for all the notifications. You can choose which ones you want. But the number 2 is that push notification up there. It's really designed to, one, if we have news releases, you have an emergency channel, and an emergency channel is just for that. If there is some emergency in the area where we're doing evacuations, you will get that annoying alert that makes it sound like the world's coming to an end on your cell phone. And then it'll be followed up with a notification from the sheriff's office. So you don't have to go to a website, you don't have to go anywhere else, you just click on the notification from the sheriff's office. And then we can provide a lot more information. We can include a map. You can see if you're in the area or not. You can find out what's going on. We can add evacuation routes if we need to, and those kinds of things. News releases are just that. Anytime that we're pushing out a news release, it's going to come out there. You may from time to time see Happy Valley PD, Wilsonville PD, Estacada PD. Those all 3 are contract cities with the sheriff's office. So we're one and the same. They pay for the services, so we just push them out that way. There's also, it's tied into weather alerts. Now, for some reason, the National Weather Service nationwide likes to put things out at 2 o'clock in the morning and follow it up with multiple of the same information. I've really dialed that back so that it's only life-altering events. So major flooding, a major windstorm, lightning storm, something that is really going to impact personal safety in Clackamas County, because they send out a lot of things. Jail information, our complete online roster of everybody that is currently in custody in our jail is on the phone, accessible to the phone. Whether that's unfortunately a loved one who ends up in custody, or you happen to have a neighbor, or you're a victim of a crime and you want to know when that person, that they're in jail, potentially a release date, that information is all there. Next slide. Can you go, sorry, back, because I forgot to say something. So in the, if you look at the image number 1, was that little 3 dots that's more, you click on that because there is more. Now, next slide. Every sheriff's office service is accessible now via your phone, whether that's an alarm permit, whether that's a concealed handgun license. On the front page was submit a tip. You can file certain types of crime reports both online and on your cell phone. The great thing about submitting a tip from your cell phone is, let's say you're walking down the trolley track and you see something and you don't want to, can't really, well, it's between this street and that can be quite the distance. You can allow your GPS location to be shared. That's attached, and then our deputies can go, instead of going, what's between this location and this thing, and go past this bench and you'll see graffiti. You can say the graffiti is here, this is what it is, and we can go right to that location. All of the sheriff's office resources are online, including, and I don't know if anybody's ever talked to you before, our reported crimes and call activity dashboards. Those are updated every month. And what you can do is you can click on the dashboard, and you're gonna, for here, you're gonna click on the unincorporated if you're looking at image number 7. And on the top, it says area. And all of the CPOs in Clackamas County are listed. So you scroll down to your CPO, you click on it, and it will take all the calls and reduce it just to the Oak Grove area. And then you can see all the activity that is going on. I will send Valerie a little PDF that shows, you can share with the entire group on how to get that as screenshots and how to kind of filter that information, because I know hearing you talk about it really doesn't necessarily give you exactly where you need to point and where you need to click. The other thing that's there is a section called transparency. Transparency, you can also get to the call dashboards, the report of crimes. It has everything there. It has our annuals, it has our policies. If you want to know, hey, why is the sheriff's office doing this? There's policy, you can look at it, you can read it. Everything is fully public, all of our annual reports, where I'll show you the data that I'm going to show you in a minute for 2025 is all listed in there. Next slide. So moving right along, I turned this into a PDF, so I'm sorry it kind of altered the formatting a little bit, but you're going to see a list of the top 6 crimes in unincorporated Clackamas County. So that is the entire county absent of an incorporated city and the contract cities of Wilsonville, Estacada, and Happy Valley. The next column over, you're going to see Oak Grove, which are the calls that were specifically here. So you can see in the county, the top crime reported was theft. In Oak Grove, you only had 228 of them versus the 3,000 that were countywide. Drug related, there's an asterisk next to drug related. So House Bill 4002 recriminalized small possessions of drugs that measure 110 decriminalized. So it's not that there was a spike in drug related crimes, it's we can hold people accountable for them. I think the other kind of crimes are listed are pretty much self-explanatory. Next slide. So now we're looking at 100% the Oak Grove area. So we have 2 different types of call activity. We have what we call public initiators. Public initiated is simply that. You guys have initiated the activity. Deputy initiated activity is activity that the deputies have done, otherwise what we call proactive policing. When we're out looking at things, we see a vehicle, we do a traffic stop. We see a car someplace outside of the building that is a business that normally wouldn't have a car out there in the middle of the night. We're like, oh, that's kind of weird. We walk around, we stop, we go walk the trolley trail. Those are all deputy initiated activities. So you can see that public initiated activity from 25 to 24 has dropped. In 2025, there were just less calls. But you can also see that there has been a spike in deputy initiated activities. And simply put, the more deputies that are on the road, the more deputies that there are to respond to your calls, the more deputies that can do self-initiated activity. Next slide. So now we're looking at the most frequent call groups. They are just that. Just because we got a call doesn't mean that that was a crime. So this is simply somebody reporting the activity, not that it necessarily turned into a crime. So you can see, what's that? In Oak Grove, it's all Oak Grove right now. So you can see that pretty much things have kind of stayed consistently. Suspicious activity is still at the top, but you can see that it's dropped dramatically. Traffic stops increased quite a bit, and that's about 460 more stops. That's a direct correlation to the deputy initiated activity increase. Alarms have gone up. I don't know why. It's common for there to be periods of time where there may be more people that moved, somebody knew an alarm. A lot of alarm activity by nature is false. Next slide. So traffic activity, again, you can see that there are more traffic stops. Crashes have remained slightly the same. And the same thing with the county. Actually, your improvement rate is better because it's a smaller number, but you can see that traffic stops have increased, but we've seen little change in traffic crashes. And a lot of that can be tied to just roadway, traffic flow, engineering issues that are constantly being tried to be refined as we get more traffic on the roads that were meant to handle a limited amount of traffic. Next slide. So these are the reported crimes. A reported crime is different than a report via call, because this is where after the deputy appeared and came to your house and asked you questions, they have probable cause to believe that a crime has occurred. So, example, somebody says, hey, my shed was broken into. We come there, we take that report. There's evidence that shed was broken into. That is a reported crime, because we are actually filling out a crime report. Hey, I think something's going on. We go there, we investigate, and there's no crime. We're not taking a report. Assault and harassment continue to be the top two. Theft, ID, criminal mischief remain the same kind of categories. Again, for the most part, a lot of the categories have dropped. You can see the spike in drug-related activity. That is a direct correlation to House Bill 4002. There's really no anomalies. The difference between assault and harassment, just kind of know that. Harassment is unwanted physical contact. So somebody's had physical contact. Assault is also physical contact, but it is a result of an injury. And that is the difference. So if somebody slaps you but doesn't cause any injury, that could be a harassment. If somebody slaps you and causes some kind of scratching, nails, where you're actually having physical injury because of it, then that's the level of the change. Next slide. So this shows you your 5-year trend. The top is, you guys, but this shows overall, your person crimes, property crimes, society crimes, and for the most part, person crimes are remaining for the last 5 years steady. Property crimes are slowly starting to drop. Society crimes are going up, but again, I would say they're actually truly more flat because of 4,002. Because we were having to not enforce things that we couldn't enforce. Kind of gives you the 3 most frequent reported crimes are unincorporated, so you kind of compare it to what I just showed you. The only anything else that I'd want to pass along, probably not. Does anybody have any questions regarding crime data, call data?
Yeah, one question only. That's not good.
I was wondering about the harassment and assault, I mean, it seems like it went up.
They have to go back. It's to go back,
What is that about?
well, so they switch places. And, you know, without diving into the individual.
Yeah, I just thought maybe you kind of knew about like.
It can be so. Kind of caveat is that a couple people can, in a smaller area, can change the dynamics. And so that's why on some of the previous slides where they have percentage changes, I don't love them because a difference of 10 based upon the data can really change things. And that's why I kind of look at that 5-year trend to go, hey, are person crimes staying relatively flat? And if you look at 2021, there were, across the county, there were 1,300 and now we're at 1,700. So you don't, it's not a really a huge rise over 5 years.
Sure.
And like I said, I hate to use the word, but you'll hear deputies use the word frequent flyers.
Yeah.
We can have somebody or a house or an area in a community that's causing a small pocket of disturbance. And while we're dealing with that, you can see a spike in reported crime and then planes back up. Because every community has people that move in from time to time, creates calls, we work on the issue, goes away.
Thank you.
Has there been any thought of trying to maybe track some of that, just to give you an idea of what kind of demographics after there, that, yeah, you got 13 people that are causing 40%.
So we track multiple aspects of this. One of the things that we track is high call locations. So if there is a location that is generating a lot of calls for service, we start looking into it, and it's a multifaceted approach, and sometimes there's a lot of people that are involved in it. Why is that location generating so many calls? And that can be anything from a behavioral health things component, and we're involving behavioral health. That could be, we're involving the property owner because the property owner has created some things. That could be anything from a transitory houselessness problem where we have people that have moved into the area. So we're constantly, we track the location, but then depending on what the data is telling us, it's kind of a pronged approach. Person crimes, when we're talking about assaults versus harassments and those kinds of things, it's really hard to necessarily tie those to a certain trend. Whereas like traffic crashes, if there's a certain amount of traffic crashes in a certain area, then we start looking at why, and then we're involving county roads and potentially ODOT with Highway 99, and we're working with our partners and they're getting information and we're saying, hey, there's a lot of crashes here, this is what we're seeing, and those kinds of things. So it really kind of depends. You also saw during COVID, you saw certain types of crimes go up and down because people were confined. And one of those components was domestic violence related calls, because people are not confined in a space. They're not getting a break from you. People weren't going to work like they were because everybody was working from home. So you saw spikes that generally could be explained, but the other part of it is I can't explain why people do what people do.
I just know that that's how they got the handle on the drug houses 10 years ago.
Yeah, and
They started
one of the
plotting,
things,
it started plotting who was there.
Yep.
And how come he's here one day and he's 6 blocks away the next day.
Yep.
And they assigned officers to.
And that's part of the thing, if you get the data out of the thing, we also have a program called, part of our neighborhood livability program. But part of that is that if truly you go to a location and the problem isn't going away, and the people aren't going away, and it just continues to happen, there is a mechanism within Clackamas County where we can take the property. And when I say we, I mean the county itself. It's not the sheriff's office doing it, it's a formal process. And we've done those, unfortunately, across Clackamas County, where we have a location that keeps generating call, and it boils down to that solution. And it happens. But the problem goes well. And that's the other important thing about reported crimes. I know, so one of the great things is that we just got our OSP just published their data, so we were able to look at it and get confirmation of what we knew. And so once again, according to data that OSP, which is the Oregon State Police, collect from all the agencies in the state, Clackamas County is once again for the 4th year in a row the safest county out of the metro area. And like in the top of the 8 most populous counties, which is great. We know that we're safer than our neighbors, which everybody wants to hear. I don't think we can be too safe. But that kind of shows our crime trends that as we're going through and kind of gives us that data that, you know, outside of problem locations, things are trending in a good direction.
Thank you. You have so much
Yeah.
information. I want to honor that. We have time with other presenters that
Yes.
are scheduled to be on.
Yeah.
And so maybe we could just take another 2 minutes. Would that be?
Yeah, sure.
You know, if there's any other questions that somebody had.
Yeah, it's harassment only means physical harassment.
Right, it does not mean, there is a different harassment for telephonic harassment, but, harassment is by definition, the crime of harassment is unwanted physical contact, sorry.
There was one problem in this. Just.
Somebody else had a question.
The one on
Daniel, did you have
Hey.
a question?
Yeah, I was just curious about that statistic you showed. That showed about a 20% increase in traffic stops in Oak Grove, and I think it was like 40% countywide. I was just kind of curious what's behind that. Is that a staffing thing or new policy, or how'd that happen?
So essentially, it was, 23, 24, we hired up. And we were able to hire up, and that's as a result of staffing. The best way to put it is, more deputies on the road, the more deputies that can respond to calls and do self-initiated activity. The less deputies are on the road, you will see a decrease in self-initiated activity because they're all busy responding to calls.
Thank you for your time. It could certainly have you here much longer.
Oh, exactly, and I'm trying to go as quick as I possibly could to get through all
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
So,
We really appreciate all that information that you have.
One real quick comment, I've been using the app for a couple of months. I don't remember how I stumbled into it, but It's very, very good, and it's easy to use, and yeah, I've got the 2 a.m. dinging on the phone and.
But it's not that bad compared to the other ones that call.
Compared to some of it, but no, it's very, very good. I just wish whoever put all that together that's running it would get to work with the development services side of it. They could fix that fiasco.
No, I can't fix it, yeah, so I might have to.
Yeah,
But,
but this app is excellent, works really well and.
well, thank you,
Easy to use.
it was a roughly 2-year project for me to get that up and running, but that leads me to one last comment and then I'll stop. It's your app. So if you guys have changes, if there's things that you don't like, if there are things that you just, I'm having difficult with this, reach out, we'll fix it. Example is that, 3 months ago, somebody said, hey, well, my tablet doesn't auto rotate, and I want it to auto rotate. And I called the vendor and I said, when's it gonna auto rotate? And they're like, we're updating with all the ADA new requirements, and now it auto rotates. So, things like that are important to us because it makes your user experience better. So if there's something that you see, or something that I can do better for you, reach out.
Let me get the Trump's communications button put on there someplace. Kind of missed the broadcastify when, we get cars flying around to figure out what's going on, so.
That's a CCOM thing, that's not me, Ben.
Thank you so much for
Thank you.
taking the time and for the presentation.
And I'm happy to come back later.
Great, thank you. And you said you'll send those.
I'll send the instructions tomorrow, I created it, and it'll have screenshots on how to get directly to your data. You can sort it by year, you can sort it by month. It's updated about every month, and then you can kind of see, I forget exactly what day they update it, but they update it monthly, and you can kind of see the trend. You can compare it to last year to say, okay, January we had this many calls, are we still similar to January?
All right, I will get that out to people, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And you have your slides, now, so you should.
Do we
spend
have the
these-
slide, do we have copies of the slides?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get those out.
And the levy stuff is attached to it, so we didn't have time to go into that part of things. You can kind of see some of the quick things there. There is a flyer. If you have questions about the levy, if you go to ClackaSheriff.us, click about CCSO, I can send you a link tomorrow.
Okay.
Under additional resources, you will see public safety levy. It has the same flyer, some questions. I don't have, if it's confusing, I apologize, I do not have controlling over the messaging, the Secretary of State's office does, and I just follow their rules so I don't get in trouble.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, and moving right along, we have Lauren Perry, who's the Natural Resources Coordinator for the NCPRD. And she's going to talk to us about the Emerald Ash Borer Management Plan.
Yes.
I look forward to hearing what that is.
Thank you. I am sharing my screen in Zoom right now.
No, we've always had a little bit of a trouble.
There it is.
Hey, okay.
Great, all right, well, thank you all for listening. So the emerald ash borer is an invasive wood-boring beetle that kills ash trees. It has recently arrived in the Fort Ventura region as of 2022. And in the last year, it's gotten even closer to our district. It arrived in Oregon City and in Southeast Portland, so we're kind of right between two outbreaks right now. The emerald ash borer is important because we have a lot of ash trees in the region, and this forest pest has a 99% mortality rate. It showed up in the Midwest in 2002 and has just kind of devastated through that region. It's been moving across the country. It showed up in Colorado a few years, and then in 2022 it was found in Forest Grove. So we've known this was coming, and we've been preparing, but it's still going to be a large lift from both the district and all of our state partners. So just briefly, in case you guys have ash trees on your property, or maybe you're out and about and see a tree in decline, here are some of the symptoms, specifically in ash trees, that you might see that would indicate further investigation. So the symptoms are just kind of an indication that something might be wrong with the tree. It could be drought, it could be something else, but EAB kills trees from the top down, so you may start to see the branches up top dying. There's another thing called water sprouts that's in that photo right there. That's when a lot of branches kind of form a skirt at the trunk of the tree. It's a good indication that something's wrong. And then there's very specific signs that it's emerald ash borer. And if you see either of these, this would be a great time to contact. The best source I found is the Oregon Invasive Species Hotline. They have an easy website to perform that's up there. They also have a phone number, 1-866-INVADER. But the distinct signs of emerald ash borer is you can see on the right, they're S-shaped galleries. So that's the burrowing pattern that the larvae leave in the tree as they're destroying it. And then when the adult bugs emerge from the trees, they leave these D-shaped exit holes. So you might see like woodpecker marks in a tree. Those are typically round. For whatever reason, this bug likes to leave a D-shaped one.
Only on ash.
Only on ash. There's some indication that olive trees and fringe trees also get affected if there's not enough ash in the area, but a little bit more rare. So some of the regional impacts, and this is just kind of for the Willamette Valley in general beyond our district. The major one is going to be to our natural ecosystems. One is riparian, which is kind of areas along rivers and creeks and streams. And then also in wetlands, Oregon white ash is one of the few species that handle wetlands that get super wet in the winter, super dry in the summer. If you guys have ever been to Smith and Vibey, there's a lot of ash trees out there. It kind of dries out completely in the summer, and in the winter it's full of water. In addition to natural areas, nurseries from the Midwest and the East Coast started selling Eastern ash at a very cheap price around the time when EAB emerged in the States. And so Oregon white ash, Eastern ash, and American ash were very common landscape trees throughout the country. They're in streets, yards, parks, seeing a lot of newer developments. And then the biggest impact for our district is, I would say, what they call the wildland urban interface. That's areas that are pretty predominant out here, that you have a natural area meeting up with an urban area. So I like to use North Clackamas Park as a prime example. The park's kind of built around a bunch of creeks and drainage areas, and so there's large ash trees all throughout there by trails, infrastructure, buildings, etc. Like I mentioned earlier, EAB or Emerald Ash Borer is very close. We have a park kind of towards the Damascus called Trillium Creek Park. The infestation in Oregon City is about 5 miles away from there. And the infestation in Portland and Oregon City are about 10 miles away. So we're right in the middle right now. It has not been found in this immediate area yet. I would not be surprised if we start to see it this year. And we're going to be able to start to see signs soon. So the Oregon Department of Forestry put out a management plan in 2021, kind of preparing for this, and had recommendations based on how far it is from you. We're definitely in the go stage where we're going to be starting treatment this year, removals of trees, public outreach, and just putting our plan into action. The first, we have a question.
Underplanting, what was that about? Don't run. Treatment removals under.
Planting under ash trees, so planting smaller trees that can handle a little bit of shade so they start to grow before the trees die off. Yeah. So the first stage of our management plan was doing an inventory of ash trees in the district, so we know how much there is and what we're working with. For this inventory, me and another staff member went through all the properties that Insecurity owns or managed, and we focused on areas where people might be. So we went along pathways, near buildings, and then property lines. And in our district, we found 915 ash trees, so it's big trees over 2 inches in diameter. And we collected the diameter, the condition of the tree, the hazard risks, so what it might hit, and we stored all that information online in a mapping software called GIS, or Geographic Information Systems. We also marked the trees with spray paint, so you might see blue or white dots on trees in parks. That's what that is. And just a little bit of information from our survey. Most of our trees are in really good condition, fortunately or unfortunately. And the average diameter is about 11 inches, so this big. On the far end, there's trees that are 55 inches in diameter at North Clackamas Park, and there's also countless smaller trees. Ash are very prolific. And this is just an example of what the inventory looks like in GIS. So this is what I'm working with when I decide what to do with the trees. That's North Clackamas Park. That's the worst part by far, but it's convenient to be able to look at any park in the district and be able to see, okay, there's ash trees here, here, and here, and make some decisions based on buildings, canopy, etc.
Were those trees planted or were they're natural?
I think almost all the large ones at North Clackamas Park are natural. I think there were probably some put in by natural resources over the decades, and then there's a few pockets where like ash and oak were planted in the more landscaped areas, but for the most part, it's mostly natural.
And Riverville Park has about half ash trees and half cottonwoods, right?
Yeah. Riverville is another one that has a lot.
North Clackamas Park's had a lot of restoration work along the creek.
It has, and
along the backside of the
ash are
expressway.
a powerhouse species, so restoration crews have been planting them prolifically. Right before EAD was found in 2022, I led a crew that planted 50,000 ash trees at Smith and Beatty. Which I think are going to be used to study genetic resistance, so there's some good in that. All right. So getting into our management plan, I'm just going to go over the objectives we listed. So the very first is public safety. I'll get into what happens when ash trees, when they die from emerald ash borer, but they become very dangerous. So that was our main priority, is to make sure that pedestrians, buildings, everybody's safe. The second is ecological. This is going to have a big impact on our canopy and our green spaces. We want to make sure we're thinking about that when we're deciding what to do. And likewise, you know, we've invested a lot of money into our green spaces over the years. We want to make sure we're maintaining them. And then the last objective is what I'm doing today is educating the public on emerald ash borer, and then what we're doing to slow the spread. Just going into our decision making a little bit. So we got the inventory, and what we do for a particular tree is going to be based both on that and then current conditions out in the field. So we're going to assess the tree before we decide what to do with it. The trees that we leave standing are going to be ones that pose no risks to people, infrastructure, or property lines. They're going to be ones in a natural area, maybe surrounded by other trees or tinier. And then the trees that we chose for removal or treatment, we used a lot of factors. Condition and health was a big one. The size of the tree, so if the tree is extra large, it might be very expensive, both ecologically and monetarily, to remove it. The location, there's some tree, an existing canopy, there's some ash trees that are surrounded by willows and cottonwoods, and it's not going to be a huge loss. And then the risk factor. So if there's a tree that's already in pretty poor health and it's failing already, that might be up on the list to remove. There are 3 response options. I talked about the first one a little bit, is not doing anything. That's great for natural areas. It will create some habitat for birds and insects. It is free. It's the easiest by far. And then treatment with insecticide is an option. It's actually cheaper in the short term than removing all the trees, but it's still costly, but that helps us maintain canopy. And more importantly, it lets us spread out the response over a large number of years. And then removal, which is definitely something that's going to happen. It's going to be trees that are in poor condition, trees that should be replaced, so maybe trees that were planted under power lines. And it is expensive. There's some stuff we can do in-house, but we're going to have to hire tree companies for some of it, and those costs rise rapidly. So just back on the options, doing nothing. We're going to be doing that in natural areas, like I said. In the Midwest, they're finding that some ash forests, when they were leaving them to die, that impacted the water level and caused a lot of flooding in the area. So that's something to consider too, because the roots were no longer alive to hold on to water. And then there's going to be a wildfire risk. Luckily, ash are usually kind of in saturated soil, but there's still going to be a lot of dead standing wood. Doing nothing also isn't the best option in most cases because the trees, as they die from emerald ash borer, become more expensive to remove. They're brittle and dangerous. Arborists don't want to climb them, so they have to bring in specialized equipment. As far as trees we found that we can just kind of leave, we counted 98 throughout the district. A lot of those are in areas owned by West that we manage, or just in areas inaccessible to the public. And then we've been working on canopy replacement since Natural Resources are always planting trees. Every year we stopped planting ash in 2022. And we're definitely thinking about that when we decide on our natural resources planning now.
So 2 questions. What does treatment mean?
I can get to that right now.
All right, I'll wait for that. And when you replant, you put other kinds of trees in?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the area quite a bit. So, and then like a developed park, I might lean on our planning and development staff. We have some landscape architects on staff who can make a good decision on what would look good and meet the needs of the property. In natural areas, it's going to be native trees.
And
yes,
there's 3 creeks have ash trees.
3 Creeks has a lot of ash trees. Wes is working on the plan right now.
Okay, you mentioned West and thought,
Yeah. So going into treatment, there is an insecticide called amamectin benzoate. It has a 95% success rate if it's used well and on correct trees. On the right, you can see an example. I went to a workshop put on the Oregon Department of Forestry on their campus where different vendors were showing their systems. You inject it up the trunk of the tree and it takes it through its vascular system and works that way. There's isopump systems that you can use, and then we're doing a system that, like, I don't know exactly how it works, but it reads the pressure inside the tree and releases a chemical based on that. We'll begin training that this month. I'm pretty excited. So as far as using the insecticide, ash are wind seeded, so this actually has a pretty low risk to pollinators and birds and everything else. It's also applied after the tree is seeded out, so really the chemical effect is limited to the tree and the bugs inside the tree. It's a trunk injection that happens every 2 years, and it's going to happen every 2 years if we want to save the tree indefinitely. So we're going to be treating a lot of trees at first, and that number is probably going to go down each year. Some trees will reach the end of their lifespan, some trees we might decide to take down, but we are going to start off with a few. It's best for healthy trees and then larger trees with a minimum of 6 inches DBH. So that knocks out a lot of trees that we have on the list already. And like I mentioned earlier, we're kind of using this to spread out the time that we're managing all these trees and spread out the cost over more years.
Will you be injecting all of the ash or just the
Not all of the ash. And we're preemptively treating them to prevent them from getting infested.
sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, other agencies are starting this year too.
Yeah.
Okay. Last option is removing the trees. So we're gonna be doing that for high risk trees, trees that might already be failing and dropping limbs. There's trees near playgrounds, trees under power lines, etc. Trees in declining health. So they don't recommend using the chemical if there's more than 30% canopy loss. So that's something we're gonna be assessing before we treat the tree. As I mentioned, we're going to be removing trees in poor locations. You guys have been to Schreiber Park. There's a bunch of ash immediately under some power lines that just get mutilated by PGE every single year, and I think it's a great time to replace those. And then ash are really prolific. They seed out a bunch. There are some areas where it is super, super thick with ash, and by removing them, we can give oaks or some other tree a chance to grow. Smaller diameter trees aren't good candidates for treatment. They're easy for staff to take down. We'll be targeting those as well. And then the earlier the better. As I said, infested trees become very dangerous and expensive to remove. Wood waste management is also something we need to think about. Places like McFarland's, businesses like that in the Midwest had to shut down when this first came through, just because there's so much wood coming through. There's also already a quarantine on moving wood throughout the counties that have had EAB infestations. So that includes Washington, Multnomah, Clackamas, and Marion, and Yamhill too. So we're kind of all in it together now. In general, the less that wood is moved, the better. So if you're going camping, please don't bring wood from home. Try to source it locally. Our plan is to leave the wood that we can leave in natural areas. At a certain point, we are going to have to move some to not make huge wood piles. And the rest we're going to ship on site. And then we have a location next to the dog park at North Clackamas Park that's secure, where we already store extra playground chips. Replanting, I've talked about this a little bit. I think the most important thing is we're going to be implementing right tree, right place as much as possible and trying to make the best decision based on the site, shade needs, etc. We're making the decision on a park by park basis, and there will be plenty of volunteer and community opportunities to come. And the last piece is outreach. Our marketing coordinator has helped me a lot with putting together materials for this. We now have a landing page on our website. It's ncprd.org/EAB. That links to a bunch of resources put together by the state, and also details our plan. It has the full PDF of the plan I wrote. We're going to be putting tags on the trees that have, there it is, that has a QR code so you can get more information. We're going to have signs up when we're working. We're going to do social media posts. We actually just put together an Emerald Ash Borer costume that is going to be debuting at Milwaukee's Earth Day on Saturday, and I'm pretty excited about that. We're doing community presentations like this one, and then we're exploring ideas for fundraising as well. And that is what I have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have questions for Lauren?
Yeah.
I'm honored to.
I live on a street loaded with oaks. There's something coming for the oaks too, right?
There is the Mediterranean oak borer. Is, I know it's two at once. It is not as fatal as the emerald ash borer.
Okay.
Oregon Department of Forestry has some great resources off it. I have not studied it as much as I have the EAB, so I don't want to give you false information. But the general consensus I've been hearing from people in the industry is, oh, we're worried about it, but not.
It's not a
Panic. Yeah.
What about birch trees? What has attacked? Is there such a thing as a birch bark beetle?
There is such a thing as a birch bark beetle, but I don't know.
I have a lot of dead birch trees on my property, so experience.
OSU working on it, their
Yeah.
technology program.
Yeah. OSU's been putting out a lot of publications as well. That's where we got our big hazard scale from, was them.
I've seen some stuff on TV too.
Yeah.
Down fall had a very good.
Yeah, I think the Portland finding was big news for everybody.
Yeah.
No questions online? Well, thank you, Lauren. That was very interesting, even if it's, you know, slightly depressing.
Yeah.
So, but thank you for being here. So our next presenter is Director Kiesel of NCPRD, who's going to give us a state of the district update. Is that?
That's correct. All right. Well, thank you very much. Ben is going to cue up my presentation and help me with the slides. Thank you, Ben. There you go. All right, fantastic. Well, as Ben's getting that set up on the screen, I'll just start. So thank you for the opportunity to come tonight. I've seen many of you before, but tonight I really wanted to provide you with an update on the state of the district and what we are doing to make the district a more financially stable and sustainable organization. Tonight, I'm really starting the story from the beginning. So for many of you, this will be repeat information and I apologize, but one thing that I am trying hard to do is to make sure that everybody has the same information. And so we're really going to start this from the beginning. Next slide. So last year, as part of the system plan project, which our board approved last fall, it's our first 20-year plan for the district since 2004. So as part of that, many of you participated and we updated our mission and vision. So our focus is parks, nature, and recreation. Next slide. The district was formed in 1990 with a permanent tax rate of 54 cents per thousand of assessed value. We serve 106,000 residents, and we're governed by a board of directors. They are also the Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. We also have a district advisory committee, and they advise our board. It's an 11-member committee. Some of you sit on that committee. Thank you. And those individuals represent 5 sub areas as well as the community centers. Next slide. The district is bound at the north by Portland, at the east by Happy Valley, at the south by Oregon City and the Clackamas River, and at the west by the Willamette River. The district includes the city of Milwaukee, as well as a large part of unincorporated Clackamas County. Next slide. NCPRD manages a little over 250 acres of parks, natural areas, trails, and greenways, as well as undeveloped properties. We have 32 developed parks, 3 natural areas, and 3 trails and greenways. Next slide. We have 3 major recreation facilities. The aquatic park was our first facility, built over 30 years ago. Last year, we welcomed 167,000 visitors to the aquatic park. We are not yet back to pre-COVID levels, but we're darn close, and we're really working hard to get more people in the door. We operate recreation, social services, and meals programs out of the Milwaukee Community Center, which is owned by the city of Milwaukee. Last year, over 70,000 meals were delivered to community members in need through the Meals on Wheels program. And the Concord Community Center, there on the right, is our most recently opened facility. And we opened that last fall on a campus that includes a new neighborhood park with our first nature play area and fully accessible playground with that rubber surfacing and our first splash pad. We also share that campus with the Oak Lodge Library. So it really is a really wonderfully activated kind of campus for the community. Phase 1 of the community center is now open. We have a renovated gym, a multi-purpose room that's available for rental, as well as a community lounge that's available for rental. And our administrative offices are now located there as well. So you can find many of us there throughout the course of the week. We are hoping, as we get more resources, to continue to invest in that building and open up more of the building. Next slide, please. NCPRD has a range of recreation programs and services. You can see we have aquatics, recreation and enrichment, older adult services, which I mentioned are primarily provided at the Milwaukee Community Center, and then events throughout the district. You know, movies in the park during the summer and concerts in the park. We also have cultural gatherings, and as I mentioned earlier, we have private rentals at all of our facilities. Last year, we had almost 15,000 participants in our recreation programs. Next slide. NCPRD has capitalized on multiple opportunities to stretch our limited dollars. For example, I just mentioned our 20-year system plan, the first since 2004. That is really our North Star. It will guide all of our district investments moving forward, and we base that plan on a very robust community engagement process. We're cultivating strong community partners. The Heart of the Community campaign has been supporting recreation programs at Concord. We're very thankful for the work that many of you are working on with that. And then at the Milwaukee Community Center, we've been working closely with the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation, and they have invested in older adult services, which has been very helpful as we've had to decrease our budget, which I'll talk about in just a minute. We've also mobilized a lot of volunteers with just a part-time volunteer coordinator. We had nearly 1,900 volunteers last year, which equated to about 73,000 volunteer hours. So that's a huge engine for us. And we are also continuing, even as we experience limited resources, we are continuing to invest in our parks and facilities to make sure that we stay on top of deferred maintenance. And I should probably add there, we just replaced the aquatic park roof. It's the first time that roof has been replaced since it was built. So we're very proud of that. Next slide, please. But even though we have all of those opportunities, really our primary challenge and constraint is that our revenues are just not keeping pace with increasing costs. And unfortunately, operational costs are continuing to increase at a rapid rate, pretty much due to inflation. I mean, this historic inflation that we're all experiencing really has impacted us exponentially. Whereas our tax revenue has been increasing at roughly 3% every year, our electricity costs alone have increased by almost 19%, excuse me, it's late, 9% per year on average over the past 5 years. So that's, roughly 43% over the past 5 years. So it is really significant. So we've been forced to make some major cuts to our level of service, and those will continue year over year going forward until we are able to get more operational revenue. Next slide, please. So this diagram really puts the challenge into context. NCPRD is that block on the far left at 54 cents per thousand. And the other parts of the diagram you see, those are the 4 other park and rec districts in the state of Oregon. And over the course of time, they all have had different levies and bond measures. We have never passed the levy. We have never passed a bond measure. We have always been at 54 cents per 1,000 of assessed value since 1990. Next slide, please. So without additional revenue, there will be ongoing budget reductions year over year. This year, we've reduced our budget by 1.3 million. So you probably saw some of our signs in parks that noted that we have reduced maintenance, and that was to reduce our budget. We also eliminated some staff positions, and we also eliminated the Milwaukee Community Center Transportation Program. The good news there is that we actually have taken the state and federal resources that were supporting part of that program, and we parlayed that into a nonprofit partner providing service 3 days a week. So it's a reduced service level, but it's still there. And we're really proud of that partnership. We have an additional reduction coming for next fiscal year. Those cuts will not be quite as impactful. We're cutting roughly $400,000 out of our budget. And we're doing things like extending our annual maintenance shutdown at the aquatic park. So that will impact some of our lap swimmers and some of the folks who enjoy swim lessons and aqua exercise, but it will be less impactful than the current fiscal year. So this is really our new reality. And again, these cuts will continue year over year. And we actually have forecasted a fiscal cliff in fiscal year 2031-32. And that has really kind of 2 implications. One is a bit of insider baseball. It means we won't be able to cover some of our requirements as a public organization. But in terms of public facing impacts, what that really will mean is that we're probably going to need to shut down some facilities, Aquatic Park or Milwaukee Community Center or Concord. And we'll probably also need to close some of the park amenities like splash pads and other kind of labor intensive or water intensive type amenities at parks. So it will be very impactful. So we do not want to reach that point, and that's why we're working really hard on our financial sustainability and stability plan right now. Next slide, please. So we are working on this financial solution, and we have partnered with national nonprofit, the Trust for Public Land, to do that work. You might be asking, why now? Has an NCPRD been experiencing resource constraints for quite some time? Well, it is true. But the extent of the resource challenge has really been clearly defined. We have a really solid 5-year forecast, and so we're able to really understand as well as communicate the challenge. We also have this 20-year system plan that has defined the wants and needs of the community, so we know what we would do if we had more resources. And now, really the community is asking for a solution, which is fantastic, and our board is listening. So it's really a perfect storm. So now as staff, we are using this opportunity to really pivot and create the strategy. Next slide, please. The Trust for Public Land has a proven process for identifying potential solutions and engaging the community to select the right solution and the right timing for implementation. And I want to add, if you're not familiar with the Trust for Public Land, I just would encourage you to visit their website. They are really the experts on park and other types of natural area district funding solutions. They have an over 80% success rate with ballot measures because when they do their work, it's all factual, it's all very agnostic. They just present the facts, they do polling, and then they listen to the voters. So they don't move forward unless the mechanism and the timing are right for that community. So the first step in their process is a feasibility analysis. And actually, we just presented this to the board yesterday. And so in this feasibility analysis, they basically describe the different funding mechanisms. And there are really, in our situation, 3 funding mechanisms: a 5-year levy, an increase to the permanent tax rate, and a capital bond measure, which we really need operational funding. We don't need capital money. So really it's one of those 2 other funding mechanisms that I mentioned. So if you're interested in a presentation and a good dialogue with the board around the feasibility study, I won't take time tonight since we're short on time, but please take a look at the website for that video. The second step in the process, and I should just quickly say that the Trust for Public Land is recommending a 5-year levy. And so now we're going to actually test that funding mechanism with the voters. So in early May, the Trust for Public Land is going to launch a poll with district voters. And they are paying entirely for this process. They are paying for all of this analysis. They are also paying for the polling. They are privately funding the polling. So this work is at no cost to NCPRD. But you may actually get a text or a call, and I would encourage you to pick that up because that will be likely around this very topic. So the second step is polling, and we expect to share polling highlights by June. And what I do want to say is that if polling shows that the community likes the preferred solution, a ballot measure would be prepared and referred in mid-August for the November ballot. But if the voters are not supportive, then we are going to pause and rethink our options on timing, on the funding mechanism, maybe on that millage rate that we tested in the polling. We really will need to retool. Assuming that a ballot measure does move forward, staff will provide information and updates until August 14th, that referral date. But following that date, we will need community champions like all of yourselves to spread the word and message around why a successful ballot measure is important for the future of NCPRD. Next slide. So this basically is a diagram showing that decision-making as to whether or not we pause and retool or whether we move forward with a ballot measure. Next slide. So a lot of folks are asking us when I provide this slide deck, what can we do now? Well, please share this information within your networks, within the district. Now is really the right time to begin building a network of community support. And we can provide this slide deck, or I can come and talk to a group if that's helpful. And also, when the time is right, if a ballot measure is referred, then the Trust for Public Land and the Intertwine Alliance, that is another nonprofit organization that we're working with, they will provide resources to community members like yourselves that can help really get the campaign word out beyond that referral date. But as staff, we really need to step back at that point, and we can be resources for information, but we have to be mindful that we're not advocating for anything after the referral date. Next slide. So since you are all experts on the North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, please share with me any candid feedback you have about whether we really are, creating a clear case, whether we're telling the whole story and the right story. And then generally, I'd really like to hear whether you think we're making a case for more resources.
You said that you didn't have any other plan, from what I understood, no more plans for capital.
Well, so we do have actually a 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and 10 and beyond list of capital projects in our system plan. But right now, yes, we would love capital money, but we have system development charge money that helps fund capital projects. We also have been very successful at getting a lot of grants to build capital projects. So I would say that we don't need capital resources, but really we need operational resources more, because we are at a point now where we need to be cautious about building more things until we have more operational resources to properly maintain them. When we look at some of the regional challenges that are facing government agencies, oftentimes it's that either deferred maintenance is really gotten out of control. And sometimes it's a combination of that, and a lot of things have been constructed and there just aren't the operational resources to properly care for those assets. So I think that we are in a really good position right now, because if we were able to get up more operational resources, yes, we can continue to build out our plan. You'll see in the feasibility study from the Trust for Public Land that they say that a capital bond measure might be something that we might want to see, in the near future. But the most immediate need, again, is to get operational resources.
I'm curious, aside from that sort of main split and maybe following on that, are there other sort of colors of money that you're dealing with, or like, revenue to expenditure restrictions, and how does your budget break down that way?
Oh, great question. Thank you. I like the colors of money, because that's how we refer to it. So we receive primarily our largest source of general fund revenue is from the taxes that you all are paying. Property tax, yes. So that is the largest source of revenue for the district. And then, but we can use general fund revenue to pay for staff, to do recreation programs, events, swim lessons. We can use that money to maintain facilities, care for parks. We can also use that money to build things, but there's a limited pot of that money. We then have the different color of money, as I was saying, is system development charge fund. So new development pays into the system so that we have resources to expand the system. But that money can only be used to build new things. It can't be used to maintain things. Again, we have to go back to general fund to maintain things. We do get donations. So I mentioned that the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation has been quite generous. This year, they've provided $220,000 that and it has helped support the nutrition program at Milwaukee Community Center, and it's helped to fund the 5th day of operations. We had cut 1 day of operations at the community center. So we had cut the community center down to 4 days of operation. So it's back up to 5 days. Next year, they're going to provide $320,000. But funding at that level is not sustainable for them. So they may continue to fund some of those programs, but I think that, again, they're doing that to help fill our gap. So those donations are really focused on a very specific purpose. So a lot of donations are really driven towards intentional programs. And then we also get quite a bit of grants, but those grants are, like I said, we have grants that are supporting some of the nonprofit work that's providing transportation services at Milwaukee Community Center. We have grants that are helping to build some of our park projects, but grants don't usually come in just to help us operate the organization or maintain our parks and our facilities.
And one other quick one on this slide. Kind of surprised there's only 5 parks and recreation districts.
Those are the major.
Okay.
So those are the major, yeah. And so when you can look across the state and there are little tiny ones here and there, but these are the 5 we put ourselves in this because we offer recreation programming, we have parks, natural areas, trails, and we also have like facilities, and so we are these are park and rec districts. Sometimes you'll see that there's a district that has like one aquatic facility, and we haven't listed those types of districts here.
More like peers.
Yes. So thank you. That's a very good question.
So last month we had Mary Rumbaugh, who's Director of Housing, Health and Human Services, right? And she talked about Human Services. And MCPRD is Parks and Recreation. Can you talk a little bit about the services for elders, et cetera, and Meals on Wheels, and how does that fit into the parks?
So thank you for that question, Valerie, because when we talk about our mission and our vision, we really are an organization that is most closely aligned with parks and recreation and nature. And the older adult services are less typical for an organization like ours, Park and Rec organization. NCPRD has been operating social services, meals programs, and other types of older adult services at the Milwaukee Community Center since the 80s, I believe. So it's been quite some time. We took it over in 2008 from Milwaukee. But there is, I would say that
the city of Milwaukee funded it until that time.
Milwaukee funded it for quite some time. It was at a different scale. The program has grown considerably. So we took over the facility in 2008 as part of our current cooperative agreement with them. And so I think this is one of our challenges is that we are spread pretty thin. That was one of the reasons why I had a conversation with the Milwaukee Community Center Foundation and asked them to support those specific services, because when we start to make budget cuts, we really need to align our preservation with those programs and services that are most closely aligned to our mission and vision.
No kidding. That's kind of square one. Sounds like to me that you, got something dropped on you at a point in time in terms of this social service and meal kind of programs that would more logically fit with the mission of another entity.
Yes. Yes. A lot of, so you're exactly right, Sue. We are working to find a way that we can make sure that those services are preserved at that facility. But the optimal arrangement would be for a nonprofit or another organization to run it. Because oftentimes when you look at other park and rec districts, they often will have a meals program as a tenant
Yeah.
in a community center. Because it actually is a really nice pairing with recreation programs, and you can have congregate meals there. We call them congregate meals, basically meals at the center. So people come for a meal, they see friends and neighbors, they might stay for a Mahjong class or a Spanish class, and then, they go home in the afternoon, but it's sort of it's kind of like a complete experience. So that would be, I think that would be optimal if we were able to find a partner who could really support that program. But from my perspective today, my intent is that it needs to be a warm handoff because so many people rely on that program. So that's what we're working towards.
I've got a couple, so how do you use volunteers currently? And could that be expanded?
It absolutely could be expanded.
How do you use them now?
So we use them for a really broad range of things. So when we have events, our volunteers basically act as staff. They help staff the event, they help set up the event. So we have events. We also have volunteers that help a lot at the Milwaukee Community Center with the different kinds of foundation events, fundraisers, programs. We also have volunteers that are helping Lauren in the field with replanting efforts, invasive species management.
Trash pickup.
Yeah, trash pickup. So we have volunteers that help us across the district. But right now, we just have a part-time person that is really interfacing with all of those volunteers. Now, I know Lauren also does a lot of work to cultivate volunteers. I don't want to say that it's just really entirely on one person, but our dream would be to expand our capacity to support our volunteer brigade because the volunteers are a major engine for us.
And that's kind of like at the conference center, it appeared that there might be an opportunity there. And I wondered what the limitation was. You don't have to answer that right now. But, and the other thing, and I probably should know this, but what is the process for an increase in millage rate?
So we could increase the millage rate with this ballot measure in the fall. So
it's a ballot measure, just like a levy.
The only way we can pass a levy is through a ballot measure, is to go to the people.
So there's nothing, increasing that millage rate follows exactly the same process.
Yes, we have to go out for a vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think we need to rephrase that. The permanent tax rate can't be changed. Is that, how would you go about changing
So
that?
we could increase the permanent tax rate, and that was tried in 2014. And we had a good dialogue with our board about this yesterday at that policy work session. But the short answer is that it's just more complicated. Increasing the permanent tax rate, you have to effectively reform the district. And often there's also the added complication of right now we're governed by a board of directors or also the Clackamas County Commissioners. That would trigger a governance change. And in 2014, the reflection was that was not successful. In part, it could have been the millage rate increase it could have been too high. But also it was exceedingly complicated because a good portion of that voter pamphlet was dedicated to voting for the board of directors. So you were doing, as a voter, you were doing a couple of things. And it was very,
So that you would form the district and necessarily.
you have to potentially do it in 2 steps.
Yeah.
It appears that you need to do it in 1. And that is what they tried to do in 2014. Some strategists suggest that going for a 5-year levy and increasing the millage rate, and then reforming at that new levy rate with a permanent tax, basically taking that new levy rate and making it a permanent tax rate, that would reduce complication.
I'm sure that's true, but you're really not increasing the millage rate for levies. You just have money that comes in.
It's a
over
short
a 5-year period.
It's a short increase. Yes.
X amount.
Yes.
Wow. My advice would be to do the more complicated in 2 steps.
Well, I think there's something to be said for doing a 5-year levy and seeing how the district does.
Maybe while you're doing the other stuff in the reformation,
So
Part of the really confusing, nobody could really explain it to you, it was so many moving parts, not too much unlike the super water.
Exactly, that's my.
Where you had to
my
dissolve
point.
it and reform it and
Exactly.
stand on one leg and hop around 3 times to the back.
And then,
It's a
you know,
mess.
you have board formation and
Right.
stuff like that, but I
It
think,
was pretty similar, you
I
could
mean,
figure it out.
you know, I'd also be interested in seeing some comparative kind of statistics. What does 54 cents per thousand mean relative to number of people served or acres of parkland or acres, some in these, as you're looking at other districts? I mean, it, you know, and then my final question is, what happens if Milwaukee withdraws?
So, can I take those in step by step?
Yeah.
Okay,
sure.
okay, these are all really good questions, Sue. So, okay, so I'd like to just go back for a moment to the point that Mark made about, the 5-year levy. If we increase the tax rate for just 5 years, it gives the voters an opportunity to see whether or not they like that. I do want to just say quickly, that was one point that the Trust for Public Land made at the policy work session yesterday, which is there are better accountability measures with a 5-year levy. Because you can state specific performance metrics.
Sure.
And then if the district achieves those, then it provides more certainty that at that rate, the services will be what the community wants. And so there's really good accountability. But to get to your question, okay, remind me, you asked about Milwaukee and their departure. So I can't speak for Milwaukee, but from what's been shared with me by Milwaukee elected officials and staff is that they're not interested in leaving right now. They sought a legal interpretation as to the legal route of departure. The circuit court actually the appeals court rendered a decision in favor of their position, which was they wanted to know if voters vote themselves into a district, can a city council elect or vote to leave the district on behalf of those voters? And the Court of Appeals, surprisingly to our attorneys, said yes. And they said yes because it was actually the Oregon revised statute that was referenced in the intergovernmental agreement for the cooperative agreement that we have between NCPRD and Milwaukee. So they said you cited that ORS, and that's the one that says the city council can vote to leave. That's right. That's right. So that's where the legal kind of that's the current legal standing. But Milwaukee has said that they don't have any interest in leaving. You might have heard last night that the Milwaukee City Council voted to approve 2 IGAs that we've been negotiating since January of 2025. One IGA was a kind of renewal or amendment to our existing cooperative agreement, which is kind of how we work together to maintain the Milwaukee Community Center and parks and natural areas. And the other intergovernmental agreement is to fund and construct and to operate and maintain in the future Milwaukee Bay Park Phase 3. So the city council approved those intergovernmental agreements. Our board has yet to go through that process. But I think that if you read those documents, you can see that there are some penalties. If Milwaukee leaves early, they have to pay back a certain portion of the money invested in Milwaukee Bay Park. So in the near term, I don't think that there is a driver for them to leave. And there are economies of scale too. It's much more economical to maintain an entire district.
From my standpoint, just FYI, the largest expenses to the district is the Milwaukee Community Center because of the personnel that work there.
Sure.
It belongs to the city and the city takes it. And imagine what happens to the expenses for the district.
I think that, you know, it's probably worth saying for folks in our area that there's kind of a disparity about having an unincorporated area yoked to a city in the way it's connected here. So I think some of us see that there's, it might be in Milwaukee's best interest to stay, it might not be in ours. So I just want to say that. Yeah.
Well, and you can have strong cooperative relationships and that happen in many places, but I don't know enough to be dangerous, so I should back it. But that's never hurt me before, right? That's right. Yeah.
Did I answer your question, Sue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good enough, thank you.
I see that Daniel has a question, and then I just want to say for everybody that is here in the meeting, Joseph is not with us tonight, so we will not have a Luart report. So when you're looking at the agenda, if you're really nervous, don't be real nervous. Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, just briefly, while we're kind of in this position where obviously the funding is tight for the new community center, the Concord Community Center, I know that there's some drop-in sports that are scheduled. There's the link in the chat, and most of those, unsurprisingly, are kind of during the typical open hours that are during the weekday till 1 p.m. But I noticed there are a few that are kind of in the evening, which I think would be a lot more accessible to most people. Is there any way we could get more of those? Because like the vast majority right now, it looks like are during that time during the day when it's normally open. And if related to that, if that would cost more, would you consider like having just higher fees so at least people could be able to come and use the gym during the maybe the evening or the weekends?
So thank you for that question. Great question. We originally set our drop-in recreation hours, and that's where you can come in for like open basketball, or you can come in and play pickleball in the gym. But you're not signed up for a class. So you can come in when you're available and just pay at the end of the door. We set our hours because we thought since the library opens later in the morning and stays open later in the evening, we thought, oh, we'll capture those earlier morning hours. We are hearing from a lot of community members, we'd like you to shift those. And so we're actually working right now to make that change. And I can't tell you exactly when that's going to happen, because we also don't want to leave behind the people that are really enjoying those early morning hours. We have now a group of people that come in to play pickleball on a regular basis together, and a group of Black basketball players. So we now have this following, so we need to be careful about shifting, but we hear you. I think you're right. I think that we need to capitalize more on the afternoon. We do have a desire to really support families with young children, youth, and young adults. And so we're trying to figure out when they need hours. And we know that some families with young children do like their early morning hours. So we're having a very lively debate right now. I think we'll probably land on doing something that's early afternoon to early evening. And we also plan to provide more late afternoon and evening recreation at the facility. And we want to do more of it on Saturdays, because again, we want to get more young adults in there too. Something that Valerie and I have talked a lot about is the community center is not just about people showing up to recreate, it's also about community. People need to be with other people, and a lot of people, young people, older people, are suffering from loneliness and isolation. And a lot of folks feel better when they're around other people and when they're building skills. So we really truly do want to make sure that we are available as much as we possibly can be to serve the community.
Thank you,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Sully.
Yeah, we really need to move on to, we do have one of the presentations tonight that, Susan, are you doing?
Yes,
Yeah,
I am.
you are doing
You
it
got
from
some
the.
slides for me?
Yeah, we do. While you're pulling this up just again. Thank you, Kia, and thank you, Lauren, for being here and,
Well, I was doing that, I wanted to give a little personal, a pitch about what this particular cents per thousand means as far as a tax bill. So my tax bill I'm gonna share was last year was $8,000 for my house. The amount dedicated to insecurity was $200. So I spend more money on coffee than I do on supporting parks that I go to almost every day.
Tell your neighbors.
It needs to be. With those social service and, meal program. Shouldn't be there. No. Fine.
Get there, here just a moment.
Brian, help with. That.
yes, we got it. There we go.
Good enough. Well, what I intend to do is not give you a short course in public accounting here tonight, but rather to get, yes, if you come down, you can get that. And I marks on our budget committee, and I highly recommend that some of you come and learn a little more about that budgeting process. It's not so deadly as you might think, but we just completed our budget process. Have not set rates that will come in the next month. But I want to tell you a little bit about what's going on in our rates. So this is what we're in the business to do. It's our commitments. Right there, next one, please. We have to do a balanced budget by state law. It's a good thing. I mean, you shouldn't spend more than you take in. So you can see here that our requirements and our resources, that's essentially what this one shows. So let's roll to the next one. There'll be some other things to elaborate. I think the little bar graphs at the bottom are helpful on this because it allows you to look along with the numbers at what we're doing in terms of use of revenue and when we've had to borrow for very large capital projects. And we use our fund balance in this. Probably the most significant thing on this is the last bar graph set that you see to the right. If you could tell precisely from looking at it, what if we have enough money to pay for that which we intend to spend, the answer would be no. And we're using that fund balance to cover the rest of the costs. So that's the important thing on there, but it is a balance in each regard, each of those years. So let's roll to the next one. This one I think is a very interesting graph because it shows you where the money, and I view this as the taxpayer's pocket on the left. And the taxpayer is me too. Remember, I live in this district too. So 61% of your bill is going to the wastewater aspect of it. Much more expensive than water itself. But you can see those categories right there for watershed protection and your drinking water on there. And on the right side are the expenditures. And although you may not be able to read all of that, the very large share of that for wastewater, wastewater treatment and the bond revenue, which is kind of that bright blue one for wastewater, and the wastewater capital, which is the dark, come to almost the same amount as that 61% on the other side. The difference being that we've got some administrative cost on top of it, but we're spending the money as it's received. You're paying your sewer bill, we're spending it on sewer stuff. You know, you're paying your water bill, we're spending it on water appropriately. Let's do the next one.
Good question from this one. What does transfers in mean?
Pardon me?
What does transfers in mean?
Transfers in, and this is the public accounting kind of deal where you get money and rate revenue and you're required to transfer it over for specific functions in order to be able to use it, to actually spend it. So, yeah, you that transfers out, you transferred it, and the requirements you've got. So you've got to move the money from you just taking it into the place so you can actually spend it. And particularly, and that relates to the capital kind of spend. And so the next one, I thought you ought to take a look, because as we look at some of those graphs on the expense level, there are certain things that drive it. So these are the key projects, roughly in the expenditure thing that we were talking about 60% of our money is being spent on capital kinds of projects. And this is what's driving it in the drinking water. And you can see the years that are associated with the expenditures, the Oakfield Road being 28 through 30, the Helena Vista main upsizing is a 27 kind of thing. You've got the intertie. This is the one that is a backup water supply system for us, where we and Milwaukee are working together. So if something happens to our water supply, we can go to theirs, which is Wells, I believe, and vice versa. So it's hooking us together. So we've got an emergency water supply kind of backup. Exactly. And it's a big bill, but in my mind too, it's one of the kinds of things that we will be, I think, be effective in grants for, because this is not a crazy kind of thing. This is a emergency management preparedness kind of thing. And that could be quite attractive, for grant purposes. So let's go to the wastewater one here. And you're looking at the 6-year capital improvement program. And you have some things happening in that. You have in 27, the third level of treatment that we've been talking to you about, that tertiary treatment, is hitting our budget in 27. All of our budget for that was, frankly. And then you have some other things that are going on in there that also are in the 27 category. And I think perhaps the most interesting thing on this is that 32 tall yellow bar out there. If everything else that we're doing in this other area around dealing with the pipes that have been leaking. If all else fails, if we are not able to reduce the infiltration into those pipes by our renovation of the pump stations and replacement of pipes where we needed to, we are not able to make major reductions in what's going to the treatment plant, because that's essentially it. Where you got stuff coming into the pipes, you're treating clean water. You're treating water it doesn't need to be treated. And if you can do it, what we're trying to do is do it smart. Now, we're going through the sections of pipe that appear to have the most infiltration. We're looking at them and saying, not just replace it. We're saying we can line it, we can repair it, we can do something or other that reduces that infiltration. That last bar is going to be less than that. That's the full expectation, and that's why we've gone at it in this way. Yes, sir.
Is the infiltration coming from the seams, from the joints, do you know?
Yes, and cracks. And cracks.
Cracked as well.
So those pipes are 75, 80 years old, so they've been in there a while. And very frankly, if you'd maybe gone after it in a little more orderly fashion 20 years ago, we might be in better shape in that regard. But we're making real progress on this, and I love the smart look at how we address this so that you don't end up big problem at the N32. Okay, next one. So this one is kind of capturing it all three of those services. Again, looking at this more from the perspective of your pocketbook kind of thing. And you can see that green there is heavily oriented to that third level of treatment at the treatment plant and those other capital projects that I described. And so we're looking at this on a rolling 6-year basis, but we're also going after grants. So my hope is that we'll be able to reduce the reliance on rate revenue as we acquire more than the 3 million that we have currently already required. And that intertie, I think, is a hot prospect for that kind of thing. And the next, let's go to the next one. You can see we've got, I don't call it an pinch point, I call it a bulge in those three. They're the current, the 27, 28, the 28, 29, and the 29, 30 budgets have more expense in them. But remember, we're sitting up there pretty high already. So in order to cover what we anticipate needing to do in the next couple years, it's not as much of an increase as you might expect, because we have the borrowing that we have done is paid back over a longer period of time. We've looked to carry it out longer, and the grants have helped reduce some of the costs on this. So you could, if you can't read all of that, but you can see the little blue one on the 2 left bars is, oh, there you go. You actually can see it. That's the dropping off. The blue one is, right below it's Zion. Zion Bank is the one we used for, it's a commercial loan that we used for financing the water meter replacement. That's going away. The next one is for the JP Morgan Chase's the wastewater system financing, and that's some of this infiltration work on the pipes and so on kind of stuff we're doing. The and then you see the Oregon DEQ loan, and that's a all of these are very low interest loans, but that one's like a 2%, and some of it will be forgiven at the end of the period of usage, and we only draw from it as we need it. We don't take that project as about $13 million project, but we've reduced it by some of these grants already too. But we only, that loan is very flexible in that we can pull from it just as we need it. So we're not paying the bill for the whole shooting match on there. Anyway, you can, it's kind of an interesting, in that we're in business development, we refinanced some debt because we got a lower rate. So we're working on all the angles, and you see that that in 3031, you're gonna have a lot of that debt go away. Yeah, the requirements go away. So I don't anticipate rates being extraordinarily high this year, but we're looking for smoothing so that you don't get the, some bounce like this, a predictable kind of rate. And so we had a great budget committee. I mean, even though Mark's in the room, I'll say that we did have, there were 5 people that asked good questions, all great papers in the area, and people who actually know what they're doing. So I'm very pleased with that, but I think we're doing a good job for you now in terms of, and one thing that I'm really proud about is that our capital projects and so on are what we're spending money on. But the organization made reductions in the operating costs to offset some of that. And how many times can you say that gets done? Not often enough, frankly. But they're looking to manage the costs in a way that doesn't hit the ratepayer any harder than is actually necessary to do this stuff. And there's no joke stuff in here. This is, I mean, fixing pipes that are leaking and the 3rd level of treatment that's required by DEQ are not fluffy kinds of items. So anyway, so that's what I have.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That was very thorough and very helpful.
Yeah.
I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Sorry I was out, but you may have answered it. But I live on Loring and been seeing signs the dump trucks going by about this secondary, tertiary.
Third level of treatment, yeah. We've begun work on it down there, and Reimers has the contract to do that work. We went through a bidding process and it's
Is
begun.
it another filter process?
It's a 3rd level. Maybe I should bring in the next time that project description again. It's a level, an additional level of treatment because we can't meet some of the suspended solids primarily in that is discharged to the river standards. Okay. So there were 3 treatment plants on the planet that had to upgrade to this higher level of filtration. And it's an interesting project anyway, but maybe somebody better than I should come in. Maybe one of the engineers ought to come in and talk about it. And certainly you gotta come down to the treatment plant sometime and take a look.
I just was surprised to see the dump trucks going back and forth like, so I hadn't heard anything about it. Then the sign showed up the next day or so on Courtney and Lori. Oh, it's interesting. So
well, when we all choked down an extraordinarily large rate a couple of years ago, we were talking about that. But now when you start seeing the signs, the rubber has hit the road, and we're actually working on it.
How long will the development?
I think it's 3 years, as I think how long it takes to get that. And maybe, yeah, I think it's 3 years is what
construction will be that long.
yeah, well, I think it's a couple of years actually, no, but you've got the planning and the engineering and
Ordinance.
then the action. And then the actual work itself.
So we're really at time, you know, much later than we usually go, so we wanna honor that. I wanna encourage people, we'll send some follow-up emails out to people, some of the slides and things that we got, so we will do that. I wanna remind people, we sent the flyer out about the Kiwanis spaghetti dinner that is on May 9th, so I'm gonna do that really quickly for people. That information is there. It's from 5 to 7 at the United Methodist Church. That's May 9th. And I think, unless there is something really vital.
May 19th, primary election coming up, please vote for everyone.
Yeah.
Do all the work.
All right, and we sent information out about, a candidate forum that was put on by other CPOs, and we have a link. The reported one from last night, and I will send that out to people. And with that, I think we should close our meeting. So, thank you, all of you who stayed until the end, and to our presenter, thank you, Susan, for up the roll. Yes, thank you. We're adjourned.